Namaskaram. We are continuing with the story of Yayati. The main story is almost complete. Once the youngest son Puru agrees to exchange his youth with the old age of his father Yayati. And Yayati enjoys youth for a long time. The exchange was for 1000 years, but by then Yayati was satisfied with worldly life, satisfied with what we call, let us say worldly life, married life, so to say. And he, as promised, he returns the youth to Puru and makes him the king, and he retires to forest. What Bharatam says is that the elder sons, 4 of them, were given kingdoms in the boundaries to rule. Normally, the palace will be at the center where the nobility and cultured people live. People who are in the periphery, in the border, they will be either illiterate or the working class, or in some other way. For example, in India, in olden times, Aryavarta is supposed to be the most cultured center. Aryavarta Punya Bhumi is the definition. All the religious rituals were done in Aryavarta between Vindhya mountains and Himalayas. And finally, the Mahabharata got extended to all over India, Afghanistan, Nepal and Burma. But everywhere, where there is a kingdom, it will be at the center, and the cultured people will be in the kingdom, and the others will be in the peripheries. So that was the case in Yayati's kingdom also. Yedu, who was the eldest, was given a kingdom in the north, Mathura and all that place. And Krishna, our hero of the Mahabharata story, was a Yadava prince. The race, Yadavas were treated as an inferior among the Kshatriyas. But of course, Krishna, because of his divine status, because of his noble character, because of his skills, he was recognized as a god, no doubt, an incarnation. And others were given territories in the border. And there is Yayati, it is said, after his Vanaprastha life as a sage, he gave up his life through yoga, as was the practice, and he was taken to heaven. He had learned enough merit to go to heaven. And what the story says is that once Indra, the king of gods, approached Yayati and got into a conversation and asked him various questions about what advice he gave to his follower Puru and all that. Yayati answered satisfactorily to all of them. Finally, Indra asked, "You were a great ascetic, no doubt, great sage. How do you rank yourself among other sages?" Then Yayati said, "I am no doubt the greatest of them all. There is no one in heaven, on earth, or in the netherworld who can equal to me in merit earned out of meditation." And that was though Yayati must have said it as a matter of fact, Indra took it as a boasting, a sign of his pride. So Indra said, "Well, in that case, you have not earned enough to live in heaven. So you must go back to earth and live meritorious, earn merits more and come back." And it said that Yayati fell to earth. Falling is not physical, but the story is described as though he was falling. And by then several years and several progenies were born. And two of his followers, one was Ashtaka and another was Shibi. Two who were from the same dynasty met him on the way and got into a conversation. And there is a long conversation among the three. The other two asking Yayati questions about on various questions on right conduct, right living and all that, dharma. And Yayati gives them good advice. And I think that's all. Yeah, and when they asked him, "Why? What caused you to fall from heaven?" He said, "I had earned enough merits, that's why I went to heaven. But when I exhausted my merits, then I was sent back." And they felt pity for him, and both volunteered to donate the merits they had earned. But Yayati refused to accept them. And that is the end of Yayati's story. There is a word I want to say about Puru. Puru became a very famous king. He was an example. He led exemplary rule. And because of that, his dynasty was known as Puru dynasty. The kings who followed, they were all known as of the Puru dynasty. And hence Paurava. In Mahabharata also, the Pandavas and Kauravas were sometimes addressed as Paurava, but more as Kaurava than as Paurava. And sometimes at Bharata also, because of another king, Bharata, son of Dushyanta and Shakuntala. It is again a famous story which we will go into some other time. Actually, Puru was a lot more famous than Kuru. There is not much I get from the Puranas about Kuru, but somehow the Kaurava term became more prevalent. That is all about this Yayati story. We shall continue with the Pauloma Parva of Mahabharata, in which the churning of the Milky Ocean is one interesting story. Another is the story of Garuda and Nagas. Garuda that is the birds like eagles, and one of them, the famous Garuda, was Vishnu's Vahana, Vishnu's ride. And among the serpents, Nagas, there are quite a few of them, and they play a role in Mahabharata towards the end. All that story comes in this Pauloma Parva, so we shall go into that next and then continue with the main Mahabharata story. That's all I have. About Puru, forgot. Puru ruled exemplary for a long time, and then as the tradition, he retired to forest, and he was very famous as a sage also. It is said that he practiced meditation for long time in a forest called Puruvanam, which came to be known as Puruvanam because this Puru did meditation there for long years. And my village, it's called Peruvanam. Some say it came from Puruvanam, and some others say it's simply because it was a big forest, Periyavanam, big forest. But the local temple, Shiva temple, has a deity which is said to be installed by this Puru. Puru, after long years of penance in this forest, he wanted to do something for the villagers. So he wanted to build a temple for Lord Shiva, and he had an idol called Shiva Linga. He had a Shiva Linga which he had worshipped all those years, and because of his worship it became very powerful with a lot of chaitanya, which of energy, and he wanted to install that in this temple. And in this temple there is also an image built in memory of Puru. He himself was commemorated. This story, there is a lot more to say, but in this context, that's all what I want to say. Namaskaram.